Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Making It in Austria. I'm your host, Adela. We are live from beautiful Vienna. It's Friday morning, and I'm so happy to welcome Magdalena this morning as our guest. Magdalena, welcome to us.
Hi, Adela. Thank you so much for inviting me. And, especially given the name of your series, which is Making It in Austria, and having me as a guest would imply that I actually have made it in Austria. And it is such a huge compliment. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Laura, one of our previous guests, who we had an interview with, Laura Casanova. You can find it over there on our YouTube channel. And Laura wanted me so much to talk to you and Manuel as well, who we are going to have as a guest very soon. So I'm really excited to have as well lawyers, right, on my channel. So Magdalena, warm welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, exactly. So my name is Magdalena Ziembicka. I am originally from Poland, but have been living in Vienna for almost 17 years
Wow.
already. So I moved here when I was 19. And I am a lawyer, an attorney at law, and I work at an international law firm with offices in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe. I specialize in employment law and employee data protection. And I am also a frequent speaker and lecturer. For instance, at the University of Applied Science in Burgenland, I teach future HR specialists certain aspects of employment law and employee data protection. So I am just very open to your questions, and I think it's amazing that I'm able to share my story and my journey to others, maybe to people who are contemplating moving to Vienna but just need this extra push or more pointers to navigate it.
And that's an excellent point, Magdalena. What was the point, the reason for you to come to Vienna, to study to Vienna? I'm sure you had some
Mhm.
options, but why Vienna specifically?
Well, it is quite a long story, so buckle up. So let me start by saying that coming to Austria at 19, completely on my own, because I left my family behind to study law, was the most courageous thing that I've ever done in my life. So I have the utmost respect for the 19-year-old me, and I, often try to summon this energy and this braveness that I had back then. And I made the decision to leave Poland when I was 18, and it was a year before me finishing my high school. And then 1 year later, after finishing my high school, I moved to Vienna uh, to to study law at Vienna University for economics and business. So, what actually motivated me? Well, there were a few key issues. So, first of all, I know it may sound completely nerdy, but even as a 12-year-old kid, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I always wanted to become an attorney. Yeah, I know it's a thing. It was my dream job back then, and thankfully, it is still my dream job. So I hit the jackpot, thankfully. But at this point in my life, when I was 18, it was my understanding of Polish job market for associates, for associate attorneys, that it may be difficult for me to actually get a job and then get qualified if I don't have any personal connection, anyone in the
Mm,
family
mm,
who are attorneys. So I had this utter fear that I will study law, I will
mm,
finish it, and
mm.
then I will have nothing to do. It is not like this anymore in Poland, and in hindsight, I don't think it would have been this bad, but it was my understanding back then. Second of all, is my family actually encouraged this, and it's a lovely story because I can pinpoint it to one Saturday afternoon when I was 18. It was um, a very nice spring afternoon, and my family would on the weekends would always buy those political magazines like Spiegel or
Mm, yeah.
Forbes, but Polish versions. And then we would browse them together at the coffee table on weekends. So we did just that, and they bought one magazine, and it actually had a brochure about studying abroad. about possibilities for Polish high school graduates, different universities in different EU countries, what are the requirements, etc., etc. And then we just looked into it, and then it was either my mom or her partner who told me, okay, like, why don't you try it out? And I thought to myself, good, why not? And it was actually like the first impulse, and we went through with it. Uh, and it was, the third thing was, I took it for granted back then, but right now I know it was a huge factor for why I made it. Is it was economically feasible for my family.
Mm.
So they were able to financially support me during my studies, so I could focus on the studies, solely on the studies when I was in Vienna, and I didn't had to think about how to finance myself. And I will be forever grateful for this. So it was why I moved abroad, but actually why Vienna and why Austria. First of all, I'm not going to lie. I wanted to move to a country with a better economic situation and a better standard of living than Poland. So I am very comfortable in admitting that in the end, I am just an economical migrant. But I don't think it's anything wrong with it. Second of all, I knew even back then as a lawyer, you need a language of your country where you practice. Then I spoke quite decent English, but English speaking countries were out of question because of the costs, and also they were too far away, and I didn't really feel comfortable moving there. However, I spoke basic German at this point, 1 year before finishing my high school, and I thought, good, I can start with this. I can concentrate on my German during this year. Worst case scenario, I will take a gap year between finishing my high school and starting university. So what I did 1 year in the summer, 1 year before finishing my high school, I went to Vienna for 1 month for German classes. So I lived in Vienna for 1 month for the first time, and it was when I completely, utterly, head over heels, fell in love with Vienna. I decided, good, that's my city. I found my place in the world. I want to move there. And so I did. So it worked. It actually worked out that during this year, before, so the year to finishing my high school, I was able to improve my German to the level that I was able to enroll at the university right away. I don't know how I did it, but somehow I did it. And, you know, I finished my high school at 19. I moved to Vienna. I started studying law, and that's how the journey started.
Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you for sharing. I enjoyed it very much. Just a few reflections. So we are also economic migrants, if that's the term. So my husband and I as well. So we moved from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We left, so to say, safe jobs and moved to Austria for economical reasons, but the opportunity reasons as well. Nowadays, it's much better, as you said, similar to Poland. So it's much better now in Bosnia and Herzegovina for IT, especially, and engineers and software developers. It's a very different world from back in 2012, 2013. When I was young, so a teenager, so my father was always telling me I should be a lawyer, because I was talking a lot, and his thinking was talk a lot, lawyer. So, and I was always discussing, and I always had something to say because I felt it should be said. And this value of fairness, being fair to one another, being fair within the family, being fair to outside of family, is one of the values I cherish. And I had to say something because it was not right, or it should be said. So I needed to say it. And my father was telling me, you had to be a lawyer. But I'm so amazed, I'm amazed at how did you, at all lawyers, specifically with the language, because the language that you use, it's German, but it's not German that we use on a day-to-day basis, Magdalena. when you
Yep.
get these, papers from Magistrat, or it's like, can't you just say simply, I have to pay something, or I have to go to this website, but it's like this abstract of whatever law. And so I'm really amazed how you can memorize this, how you can, because it's a different language. It's a German, but it's a law German, and I'm amazed how you can, do that and go through it and remember it and live it through. So I'm really, admiring everyone who studied law in German and in all languages, because it's something that you have to live through later on. You cannot forget it. And it's not after the studies, you just like, now I have my diploma, and now I go and you have to.
Of course. Because also the official court language, the official authorities language is German. So there is basically absolutely no way around it. And also, I had to be aware from the start that I am competing on the job market, but also in acquiring the clients with native speakers. So this was a challenge. As I said, I think that 19 and with the early 20s, your brain is much more flexible, so it's much more able to learn the language. But on the other hand, it is mature enough to comprehend all the necessary messages.
And the one last point is what you said, and I absolutely agree. Studying here with the support from your family, it's the best, I mean, I had the opportunity as well in Bosnia to study with the support, with the financial support. And just last week, I had friends visiting, and her husband is, they just got married, and her husband is studying and looking for this practice, right? Because when studying and then ensuring that he gets this practice along the way, and he can then study and get some benefits for it as well while working, so he can finance his studies. And I just, my husband and I, we reflected on that. I said, like, wow, that's really hard. That's really, really hard. In Bosnia, it was hard because, it's again different standards of living, but in Vienna, when you are a foreigner student, not EU student, for instance, like the Bosnian students, so you have to pay this admission semester fee, right? The cost of living is just like getting higher and more expensive year by year due to the inflation and many other factors. So I was like, really, over the weekend, we were reflecting on that, and I was so grateful, that I had this support along the studies, because it was hard, but then it was one thing, I would say, like one thing or things around the study that I had to take care of, and not multiples of them, and just like work 20 hours and meet the studies requirements and the expectation of yourself and the family and this and that. It's just, it's a lot. I would say it's a lot to tackle.
And I think it was also a huge factor in my career development, because even at the university, I started with summer internships. So it was also a privilege, because due to the financial backing, I was able to choose the internships, the jobs that will help my career, rather than just concentrate of how I'm going to finance myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a different flavor. And how is so you work at the company, so as a professional, but you then work as well as a professor at the University of Applied Science. So how do you manage that, or how do you like, being a professor now and business professional? So how do you combine these two?
Well, I am a guest lecturer, so the commitment is not this huge. But also, I take on many speaking opportunities. So, a part of being guest lecturer, I also record podcasts at my law firm, and also teach some online courses. I think part of it is a routine, definitely, and say I basically repeat the things I already telling to the clients. I have to, of course, prepare and structure it, but it's getting much more easier. And I also continue with guest lecturing because in the end, I think it makes me a better lawyer. Of course, I am there to study. Sorry, I am there to teach primarily. So I'm there to pass on my knowledge, and I think it has a lot of responsibility to it, to give it the correct way and in the understandable way. However, it is also a great learning experience for me because I receive an instant feedback from the students when I'm lecturing. So when I'm at the in the classes and I'm lecturing, and then I see, okay, the half of the faces looks a bit confused, and then there is a signal to me, good, maybe I'm speaking too fast, maybe it's too complicated, so I'll need to reiterate it, maybe I'll need to include some examples. So yeah, so it is a good lesson also for me, and this is part of why I'm doing it.
I love it, and I also try to be as much as possible with the young people as well, through the mentoring and also some speaking opportunities, etc. Because as you said, you get a lot of feedback, and they ask honest questions, right?
Yes.
Because they don't have any interest apart from to learn. And I'm curious, Magdalena. So, what's usually people say that the world stays with the younger generations. So, what do you observe with this generation that you are teaching compared to your generation? For instance, is it more open, more asking more demanding, asking more questions, being more flexible, or is it similar to what you have had in your life?
Maybe it's a small detail, but it was the first thing I thought about is how they're taking notes. Like the people I'm teaching, I mean, they're not, I mean, they're obviously younger than me, but it is a master program which they're making, which they're attending together with their job. So it's on the weekends.
Okay.
So those people are, my students are around, I would say, 25 to 30 years old. But still, it is just slightly other generation. So the Gen Zs start attending. And the first thing that came to mind is how they're taking notes. Because I remember I was taking notes by hand, noting everything, and I still do it. And I still love. When I'm lecturing, everyone has their laptops and they're just protocoling everything that I'm saying, which is a bit scary, to be honest, because then they're able to note every word. So I really have to watch out what I'm saying. So this is I think the first issue that I'm noticing. Second of all, because at the university we received direct anonymous feedback, and I think it's incredibly healthy. And I wish I was like this when I was in my mid-20s, that they're just very, very direct with their feedback, also with negative one, not cruel, but just pinpointing, okay, I would like the lecturer to give more examples, not to speak so quickly, etc. So it's a very very helpful feedback. They're really taking the time, and they're not afraid of giving it, just or just giving only a positive feedback for the sake of being polite.
I noted the same, Magdalena. I had the reflection with one of the other guests on this podcast, and my generation. So I'm born 1987, so I'm 37 years old. And my generation, but it has also with the culture, the upbringing, the motion that was accepting. We were. I remember we were not challenging that much. We were receiving, accepting, taking as it is. Maybe having some doubts with it, like, well, this is not going to work. But we would not be so vocal. We would not, channel it in that way. And the faculty that I went was a public one, so feedback was there, but not there. Like, for instance, on the private universities, my colleagues then went to be professors at the private universities, and they were telling me like, oh, I have feedbacks after feedback after feedback in all the sessions. So it was very different on the public back then. It was like you accept as it is, all these professors, they were
Yes.
like well known and well
Exactly.
established. You should be like grateful and happy that you're
Mm-hmm.
studying from them and learning from them, because they were so known. But we as a generation, we were the ones who were like just accepting, taking it, and then not discussing it that much at
Mm-hmm.
all. That was generation before WhatsApps, Skypes,
Yep.
I don't know, internet, YouTubes, podcasts, I don't know what not. It was generation that was like calling each other over the phone, texting SMS. I don't know, having this on Google, or was it Gmail? There was this chat that you could call each other, so VoIP and things like that, but very
Yep.
different generation. So
Mm-hmm.
we
And that also, I think it's also it's maybe a Slavic thing, like the point of Slavic upbringing in the 90s. So
Mhm.
by parents who obviously experienced hardships
Mm, mm,
due to all the
mm,
political situation in our countries, and then I have a feeling like your only job as a child was to be polite and to be
mm,
grateful and
mm.
not to ask questions.
Yeah, not to
So it's
upset too
also
much,
maybe a
because we
factor.
knew
Yeah.
what they went through, their generation and the generation before. For instance, my
Yes.
grandma used to say like how hard years they had, and the First World War, the Second World War, the afterward, the Hunger years, this and that. So it was like all these hardships. So they would share some of it with us, and then you grew up and you see around yourself, oh, I have something to eat, I can go
Mhm.
to school, I can do this, I can do that. So then this you start to being hard for you to ask for more,
Yes.
right? Because you say, I am already privileged, I have all this what my 2-3 generations back didn't have at all. So we kind of had this all around us, not asking for more. um, Moving, Magdalena, to a little bit now going towards networking, and because it's an important point for the community of making it in Austria. We try to, be closer to one another, support one another, share one another. So there's a LinkedIn group around it. So, and there's also, emails, and there's also WhatsApp group, and there's also meetings. I will try to do one in June to bring people together, because I know you all, but you don't know each other yet.
Yep.
And the beautiful thing happens when people meet each other, and they have a similar, core values. So they share this, a little bit of hardships and challenges
Yes.
coming to a new country. So it bonds us. So, you build up on top of that. So how is your way around networking? So how was it for you back then? How has it changed now? You're a professional,
Yes.
things change over the years.
Well, definitely. I think at the beginning, as a young adult, also at the beginning stage of my career, I think I really underestimated this, and underestimate how important it is. Because in general, I'm a very self-sufficient person to a fault, even hyper independent, and I don't really like asking for help. But even I had to realize that you need other people to move forward in your life. Like knowing other people, keeping good friendships, also keeping good professional relationships. It may sound trivial, but it may open up so much opportunities in your private and professional life that you may not even expect. And maybe one of the most obvious examples in my early years in Vienna was when I was applying for my first internship at a law firm. So I was just applying in a classic way.
Mm,
I didn't have much experience in it as a young adult. I wasn't super successful, so I asked my then partner, who didn't have anything to do with law. He wasn't a law student. He didn't have anyone in the family, but he himself was a very outgoing, extroverted person and a great networker. So what he did is he asked a lawyer who was his acquaintance from his karate classes, so completely random, and asked her, okay, do you know anyone? Do you know any law firm who's maybe looking for summer interns? And she actually recommended to him and then to me relatively young young law firm who was actually looking for summer interns. And I'm not sure, but I think she also talked to them. She maybe said that
Mm.
a person may apply to them. So I applied. I got invited to an interview. It went well, and they took me in. And in the end, it was an amazing fit because uh, I made a summer internship there, and understood. I built a good connection with the. Oh, sorry.
Mm.
Okay.
We see you.
So, great. I built a good connection with the employment law partner there, and then I continued as a regular legal
Mm.
trainee. And then when I finished my studies, I didn't have to worry about finding a job because I was able to begin as an associate there. So it was just because I asked for help, and I asked for help from a more extroverted person, which is often my way to go.
Yeah, that's
Just finding an extroverted person who will adopt me and help me. It was also similar with Lara recommending me to you.
good to have those extroverted friends,
Yes.
indeed. And you would be surprised how your story is similar to many, many stories that I've had here on the podcast as well in private. Just like that, applying, for instance, for a job for months and this and that interview. But then it was with my friend Amela, her husband is taking kids for a basketball game, and then the other dad is also taking kids for the basketball game, and then he said, I work in this company, and he said, oh, my wife is looking for a job, and then there you go. So
Exactly.
so it bypasses this thing that bypasses all kind of recruitment processes and in place. So but that's how it works. Basically, it's good to know how it works. Is it fair or not? That's a different topic compared to, I don't know, people who are applying directly and so on. But that's the way how it works. I got all my jobs like that, basically,
Okay. I
through
actually got my
recommendation.
yeah, I actually got my current job just applying
Yeah,
through a headhunter.
you
So
see?
it was, yeah, I would see, okay, semi
Yeah.
networking, but still applying in a regular way.
Yeah, someone does the work. Magdalena, thank you so much for sharing all the experiences. We have a couple of more minutes and we will wrap up with asking you for the book or the books that you read or any books that you would like to recommend to the audience.
Uh, sure. So in general, I try, and I maybe not try, I prefer reading novels than nonfiction books, just because for me it's just a way to relax, to disconnect after an intellectually intense day. And I really love the genre of magical realism, when the reality and the fantasy world kind of blend together, because
Mhm.
I just like this feeling. So my favorite read is Bulhakov's Master and Margarita. Uh, but the one that I recently finished is Haruki Murakami's last book. It is The City and Its Uncertain Walls. So I think Murakami is just a master of the magical realism genre. And also all his books have this hauntingly nostalgic feeling that really, really appeals to me.
Oh, awesome. I don't know him
Mhm.
yet, and I will definitely write it down and link it to this interview with you, Magdalena. And I will also share your LinkedIn profile within
That's
the,
great.
subscription within the section, so people can get in touch with you and get to know more from you and about your work, and hopefully more things will come together.
Yes, definitely. It is a very, very good way to reach out to me. Just to connect via LinkedIn, drop me a message, and then we can see how we can start from there. And this how also we connected.
Yes, exactly. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Magdalena, for your time today. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone, for listening our interview. Please drop a message, get in touch, connect with us, subscribe to this channel so that these stories travel abroad and many people can hear inspiring stories from our guests. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.